At the edge of an international border, at the edge of the Pacific, at the edge of innovation, community, education, and discovery, you're listening to At the Edge of It All, a University of San Diego podcast where USD experts speak on topics and stories that impact you and the broader community.
Hi, I'm Cameron Zeck.
And I'm Elena Gomez, and joining us on the podcast today is Meredith Levin. She is the director of the Women's Legal Clinic at USD School of Law. Meredith, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here today.
Meredith, so we'd love to dive in a little bit of how you got interested in law. Everybody has a journey of how they get into the career path that they're in. What interests you about law, and specifically working with women and victims? What inspired you to take that career path?
Well, law is interesting. My middle name is Ray, and I was named after my grandfather, who I never knew, and he was a lawyer. And so when I was a little kid, I have a little thing I wrote in first grade saying, I want to be a lawyer because I want to help people and I know a lot of rules. And so I think that desire, I do still know a lot of rules, but the desire to really help people is what really prompted me into the law. There's a lot of ways to help people, but to help people from a legal perspective as they are going through a difficult time. Anytime a lawyer gets involved, something is going on. And then I ended up in family law because I thought that was the way that I could best help people. So it's very direct, one-on-one contact with people. They're going through probably the most difficult time in their lives. I have a history in my family. I have a lot of social workers in my family. So there was this whole idea of kind of melding social work with the legal system to really kind of help people from that perspective.
And here at USD School of Law, you are the director of the Women's Legal Clinic. Explain how the legal clinic works. What kind of cases do you work on? And it's free for the community, right?
It is. We have income eligibility guidelines, so someone has to be eligible for our services. But if somebody is eligible, our services are free. And that's a really, really important deal because it is so expensive to hire an attorney. And so the Women's Legal Clinic is one of 12 legal clinics at the USD School of Law. And my clinic focuses on family law issues. That is my background, with a specific emphasis on victims of human trafficking as well as domestic violence. And we help them in all aspects of family law, from getting a divorce to seeking a restraining order to addressing and obtaining custody orders and addressing and dealing with child support and spousal support as well.
And it's the USD law students that are working on these cases, and you're overseeing them, right?
Yes, that is one of the most amazing parts of our clinic, is that we are essentially staffed by law students who are at the School of Law. They want to get this real world opportunity while they are still in law school, so that they work directly under my supervision. But they're the ones handling the clients, working with clients. They're eligible to be certified. They're able to go to court, which is amazing for a law student to be able to go in front of a judge and make an argument on behalf of a client. They interact with opposing counsel or opposing party, and they really help the clients through the system. So it's what I would consider a win-win. We're working with a population that is underserved from a legal perspective, while giving law students this incredible opportunity to get their feet wet while they're learning a skill. And hopefully what we instill in them is, even if they don't go into public interest law, but they always have kind of a fondness for it or an ability and an awareness of giving back to the community.
What have you seen in students it must be scary to take on your first case. You haven't passed the bar. It must be kind of nerve-wracking. What do you see from students when they start a case to going into court on behalf of a client? What is that like to watch?
It's amazing for me from my perspective, because I really see the growth within a student. I see a student who might come in, they're very, as anyone would be, very nervous. The first time they're like, what do you mean I get to talk to the client? You're not going to be part of the conversation? No, you're going to talk to the client. And so working with them as they talk to the client, as they assess the legal issues, as they put together their legal arguments. So it's really an amazing process to work with a student directly and help them, mentor them into kind of learning what it really means to be a lawyer. And then to see that come to fruition when they go in front of a judge and they make their argument in front of a judge. It's really amazing. And they say they're very nervous when they go in front of judges, but guess what? So am I. You're not living if you're not nervous. It doesn't matter how many times you have done this. But to give the students that opportunity to do this before they're a licensed attorney is amazing. There's a practical, they could be practically trained or certified. So students that they have to have a couple of classes and then they can be certified to go into court.
And I'm sure, you've had students who have won cases,
Yes.
and I'm sure it's like really rewarding for them. What kind of, stories have you seen there?
I have had amazing success. I had, one of the first trials that we did, and we've done trials where they take testimony from witnesses and present evidence. We were able to, the student was able to get our client guardianship of a child who had been horrifically abused. And so it was really probably one of the most rewarding cases, because we knew that this student had made an incredible difference in this child's life. To go into court and help somebody get a restraining order against somebody who has been harassing them, abusing them, stalking them, and giving them that measure of protection is incredibly rewarding, not only for the client, but for the student. This feeling of accomplishment is really incredible. Or help your client get an order for child support. That could make a tremendous difference in somebody's life, having additional income coming into the home to help take care of their children. And so it's always like this incredible experience for students. It's like, you can do it.
Yeah, no, definitely. And you kind of mentioned some of the service that you offer. Are there things that you're seeing more of, cases that you take, like, are you seeing more cases of a certain sort than others, or is it kind of a mixed bag?
It's always a mixed bag. Unfortunately, we see a lot of domestic violence cases. And so people seeking restraining orders, seeking protection. So when I say unfortunate, is that someone is in that situation that they need that kind of help. So we see that. We see divorces, people who were never married, but they have a child together, and sometimes they are working through custody is fine, and then all of a sudden it's not. And then again, child support or spousal support to help somebody kind of increase the income in their home.
And we mentioned this earlier, that it's free.
Yes.
And what is that? What does that mean for people to have these free legal services? Because I guess otherwise they would just go into court and defend themselves if they can't have a lawyer, afford a lawyer.
Right. Unfortunately, in family law, you don't have the right to have an attorney like you do in criminal law. So if people cannot afford attorneys, and I'm not judging anyone, but they're like $500 an hour for an attorney. It's really, really expensive. So to have somebody there, somebody who knows the law, knows the other side, knows the judge, is able to essentially present your side of the case in a legal framework is priceless. Because if you think about this, especially somebody, let's say it's a woman who is having to ask for a restraining order against her abuser, and she doesn't have anyone there with her, how terrifying would that be? It would be terrifying for anybody. If you ever have been to just traffic court and just standing there, it's a little overwhelming and intimidating. And then to add all of the components, the abuse, the fear on top of it, plus these people don't know the law. We don't expect them to know the law because they're not lawyers, but if you stand up in a courtroom, you have to have some awareness of the law. So to have somebody there who really can just present your case for the judge is, I think, such a relief for our clients, for lack of a better way to describe that. They don't have to worry about that. They have other things that they have to deal with that they're struggling with, but not having to worry about facing somebody in court who they used to love, who hurt them, and then being able to have somebody else, explain it to the judge in legal terms that the judge will understand.
What have you seen then if you just don't have an attorney? I mean, sure, you could go online, you could maybe Google some of the rules and regulations, but that's like a second job in itself, just to defend yourself in court. So what are some of the things you've seen with people that don't have representation in court, and what does that look like? I don't know. Does the judge help you kind of understand things as you go along? Is anyone holding your hand, or you're kind of just alone, I guess?
You're kind of alone. If you are a victim of domestic violence, you can bring a domestic violence advocate with you in front of the judge, but they're not allowed to speak. The judge is not allowed to give any kind of legal advice. So all the judge could do is refer them. There's a family law facilitator who helps people who represent themselves. That's all the judge can do. They can't tell them what to do, what forms to fill out. And I've been in court kind of waiting for my turn, and it's been so hard. I've seen cases and I want to just whisper to the person, make this argument. You're making the wrong argument, or you're addressing the wrong thing. Like, it's really hard because you see somebody struggling and you know what they're trying to say, but they might not be saying it the right way. And so it doesn't really come across how a judge needs to hear it. Because when we make legal arguments, they're kind of like in their nice little boxes, right? In legal terms. And so I feel bad for people sometimes when I look at it and I'm like, if you just had somebody there to help you, or just to advise you, or just to give you some guidance, I think things could be different. So I think having our students represent clients is an absolute really important for our clients.
And touching on that, for people who maybe can't afford an attorney or can't find like a low cost, no cost option, what are some like tips or advice you have for people that are in, a family law case? What advice do you have for people who might be trying to defend themselves?
Well, it's really hard, I would say. Sometimes there are groups, online on social media where people talk about their own experiences in court. I would just tell people to be wary because not every experience is exactly the same. So just because somebody had one experience doesn't mean that's the experience you're going to have. I would tell people to get their evidence together, anything that they think is relevant towards what they are trying to express. If it's an example where there's a custody issue and the parents can't agree on where to meet to exchange the child, and there's text messages, get your text messages together. Reach out sometimes, listen to a podcast like this where people talk about their experiences or give information. Sometimes there's some attorneys that do a free consultation, so it might be worthwhile to find a free consultation just to have someone to talk to. Read as much as you can. I know we all like to watch, podcasts and videos, and sometimes you can do that. And try to learn the law if you can.
And lastly, so for people who are looking to get in contact with the Women's Legal Clinic, you don't just serve women, you serve everyone.
Yes.
How can people, reach out, get in contact if they need help?
They could call our office, which again houses all of the legal clinics. Our phone number is 619-260-7470, or they can look up USD legal clinics online and they will be directed to our webpage, and that will give them information. They can call. Sometimes we're open for new cases, sometimes we're not. If we're not, they either get referred out, they'll be given other agencies that might be able to help them, or we always have a wait list too.
Okay, wonderful. Well, Meredith, thank you so much for sharing this really important information and all the work that you're doing with the Women's Legal Clinic. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And if you like this episode, be sure to subscribe to catch our next one.